These verbs have similar meanings, but they can't be used the same way. English learners often find it difficult to use these words correctly. In this lesson, you'll see what these words mean and how to use them correctly in English. First, let's look at must and have to. Must and have to are both used for obligations. That means things you cannot choose not to do. Must is used when you have a strong feeling about the obligation, and also in formal or written English, especially on signs and notices. For example, you must pay him back when you see him. If I use must there, it means I feel strongly about this. I have some kind of emotional sense about this obligation. Passengers must have a valid ticket before boarding the train. So this sounds very formal. Probably it's on a sign on the train somewhere, and so we use must. Have to is used when the obligation depends on rules or laws. For example, I have to wear a tie at work. So this is a rule. I don't necessarily care, but I have to. I don't have a choice. You have to be 18 before you can start driving. So again, that's the law. It's not what I think. It's just the law. You have to. You have no choice. Okay, so if you're not sure in a situation whether you should use must or have to, and you're thinking, which is correct? Must, have to. Use have to. You can never be wrong using have to. But if you use must, it can sound strange or it can be wrong, especially in spoken English. Have to is much more common in spoken English. Point 2, mustn't and don't have to. So must and have to are very similar. Not the same, but still very close. But the negatives, mustn't and don't have to, are completely different. Mustn't means something is forbidden. You cannot do it. For example, you mustn't smoke on the plane. It's forbidden. You can't. Employees must not use the internet for personal reasons. So again, it's forbidden. You cannot do this. Don't have to means that something is not necessary. If you don't have to do something, you can choose to do it or not. It doesn't matter. For example, you don't have to be here before 10. That means you can come before 10 if you want. If you want to come at 9 o'clock, come at 9 o'clock. If you want to come at 8 o'clock, sure. But it's not necessary. Or, I don't have to finish it today. That means, well, if I finish it today, no problem, but I can leave it till tomorrow if I want. Point 3, let's look at must and should. We said before, must is used to talk about obligations, things you need to do. Should is used to give advice or express your opinion. For example, you shouldn't say that to her. So this is my advice. I think it's a bad idea to say that to her. He should do more work if he wants to get promoted. This is my opinion. I don't really care if he does it or not. It's just my idea. But must can also be used to give advice in some situations. If you use must to give advice, it has a very strong meaning. It's much stronger than should in this situation. For example, it's a great film. You must see it if you can. So this is strong advice. I think it's a really good film. You must go to the Louvre if you're in Paris. So I really recommend it. I think it's necessary. Shouldn't can be used to give advice as well. When you use must to give strong advice, you can only use the positive form. We don't use mustn't to give strong advice. Okay, now let's look at all three verbs together: must, have to, and should. So we use must for obligations you feel strongly about, obligations in formal written English, strong advice, only must, not mustn't, and saying something is forbidden, only mustn't, not must. We use have to for obligations which depend on rules or laws, and most of the time in spoken English. You can use should for giving advice or expressing your opinion. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson. If you want more practice with this topic, come to our website. You can see the full lesson, which has exercises and a text, so you